Okay, this is the Williamson County Board of Commissioners meeting. It's Tuesday, August 10th at 10 o'clock. Roll call, please.
Jim Marlowe.
Present.
Brent Gentry.
Present.
Tim Atkinson.
Present. This time, let's rise to say the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tim, could you please?
Father, we ask that you guide our actions and our deeds today, that they may be pleasing to you, that you continue to bless this great country, that you be with us today. And all these things we ask. Amen.
Okay, before we go further, let's go ahead. Is there any old business? Let's get that out of the way first.
No.
The amended raffle and poker run license ordinance. Drew, you
Sure.
want to tell us about that?
Yeah, if you'll indulge me for just a moment. Prior to the meeting, I handed everybody a nice chunk of paper stapled together. It's just the State Raffle and Poker Run Act, which obviously supersedes our ordinance. And the reason that I was tasked with drafting an amendment to our Raffle and Poker Run ordinance is because there was a little bit of confusion as to when this board needs to issue a license or consider issuing a license versus when a municipality that exists within the county borders is the one that's supposed to issue it. Looking over the statute, as well as then looking over our current ordinance, I have actually changed my mind, and I will explain why. I don't feel that we need to amend our ordinance. Looking through it, there are 3 or 4 very small typographical changes that I would recommend. If you want to change, we would change just to clarify it. The big issue was, at least from my memory, is at what point do we have jurisdiction? Is it only in unincorporated areas? Or, for example, if there's one that comes out of Heron or one that comes out of Carterville, do we have the authority or the obligation to consider a license? Then there was also a question of, let's say it starts in Carterville, but it has 4 or 5 stops in the unincorporated part of the county, and then maybe it ends back in Carterville. What do we do in that case? So the answers are outlined within the statute that I handed you. I will very briefly go over in just a minute or two. On the very front page, about halfway down in section 1, section 1 is definitions. Key location is about halfway down the page, and there's a 1 and a 2 there. 1 deals with the definition for a poker run. A key location for a poker run is the location where the poker run concludes and the prizes are awarded. And number 2, for a raffle, it's the location where the winning chances in the raffles are to be determined. The reason that definition is important, and I pointed out, is later in the statute, around page 4 or so, it basically says that the authority of the governing body is determined by the key location. If you look at, and I didn't print out copies, I apologize, of our current ordinance, we do have a miscellaneous provision there, a section 7, that says that we're allowed to issue a license regardless of where the stops are based on the key location. So, for example, if it starts, say, in Carterville, I believe Carterville has a municipal ordinance for this. Let's say it stops in 10 different places in unincorporated Williamson County, but it ends in Carterville. That's the key location where the prizes are going to be awarded or the chances are going to be drawn. It falls under the jurisdiction then of Carterville. The issue we run into here is not every municipality within Williamson County has their own ordinance. So what happens then? Well, if they don't have an ordinance, the statute says that then the county body has the ability to issue that, both for a poker run and for a raffle chance. One thing that's on topic, but a hint off, near the very bottom of that first page, when we're dealing with definitions, it defines raffle. And at the very bottom of the page on number 1, it basically says that the player pays or agrees to pay something of value for a chance. The last license that we considered as a board was one. It was kind of an interesting one. We had the lady on the phone, if y'all will remember, and she basically said it was just something that, she was going to kind of hand out the cards, almost like raffle tickets, and then they were going to draw something at the end. In that particular case, I don't believe, and I believe this board decided to issue a refund. I don't believe that we needed to do it because it didn't fall within the definition of a poker run or a raffle. So getting back to the point of what about this amended ordinance? In my opinion, our current ordinance says that pursuant to the state statute, you have to have a license. The only recommended changes that I would make at this point would be, and I'll go through them very quickly. The first thing I would do is I would change our definition of key location to have it more inform. I would basically just copy and paste the state statute and put that in our ordinance. Yeah. And again, I apologize for not printing out copies of the ordinance. The next change that I would make is in section 2 of our current ordinance. Section 2 is requirement of license. I don't think we need any words of incorporated or unincorporated in here. The only thing I would change is our current language reads that it shall be unlawful for any person, firm, business, corporation, organization, or other entity to conduct or operate a raffle or sell or offer for sale, convey, issue, or otherwise transfer for value a chance on a raffle without having first obtained a license. I would insert the words within Williamson County in there. And then in section 2, we do the same thing for poker run. I would insert the words within Williamson County. It does go on at the end to say pursuant to this ordinance and the Raffle and Poker Run Act, which is obviously the statute. I would add one other line that basically says that it shall be the responsibility of the applicant to submit the application for licensure to the appropriate governing body. It shouldn't be this board's job to have to tell an applicant, well, you live in Heron, they don't have one, so you have to go talk to them. I think the person who's doing the application should have to take that upon themselves. Otherwise, we run into a situation where somebody submits their $15 or their $25 fee. Turns out we don't actually have jurisdiction, and now we're having to refund it. And I mean, I know it's only $15 or $25, but I'm sure Ashley would, appreciate us not having to issue a bunch of refunds. Everything else in our ordinance dictates how you operate a raffle or a poker run. None of that needs to change. So I think that between the state statute and what we currently have, I don't think that there's a lot of confusion. And I'm not going to blame the last applicant, but I think what we ran into was two things. One, a situation where the applicant wasn't really sure if they needed to contact Carterville or us. And then second, my fault. I should have been able to advise the board, yes, they need to do it, or no, they didn't need to do it. And I didn't know off the top of my head. So having a clear understanding for myself and probably, all of us of which municipalities have it and which ones don't, I think that would be important. One final change, as I was looking through it, it's not related to the issuance or anything, but in our ordinance, there is a section that basically says the location, the application, sales of raffle chances shall only be sold at locations designated on the license application and which are within the borders of Williamson County. There's a provision in the statute that says that they can sell chances outside of the county, in fact, anywhere in the state. I would think about striking that last part. The statute does give you the authority to make this ordinance more stringent or tougher than the state law. We just can't be more relaxed than the state law, if that makes sense. So this may be a situation when you guys originally drafted this a couple of years ago, you wanted to have that tighter, that firm grip. And if so, then that's perfectly fine, perfectly legal. You don't need to change it. So all that being said, I don't think we need to have an amended ordinance. If you do, and you are interested in making those slight typographical changes, I'd be happy to, draft one up, give everybody copies so that, they can see it. I have them on here. But basically, I'll be at your direction, whatever you'd like me to do. Legally, though, I don't necessarily think there's a need at this point to change the ordinance. And earlier I said it did, so that's my fault. But that's where we're at on that.
Can you repeat all that for us?
Sure, yeah. So let's start at the beginning. This pack.
Okay, well,
So what's the board's thinking?
Could you clarify, if a person comes into the office here to buy a license,
Mhm.
but let's say they're from Heron, and Heron has a license,
Sure.
do we turn them away and tell them to go back to Heron? How is a person supposed to know whether or not they live in a jurisdiction that has a license?
It's tough. I think, I don't know, if I'm sitting in the office and somebody comes in, I think the first thing that I do, where do you reside? Where specifically is the raffle or the poker run going to take place? And if they say, well, it's going to take place in Heron, or it's going to take place in Carterville, I'd say, have you contacted them about licensing? Most people probably, well, no, I just came here to the county. Okay. What it really will determine is that key location. So the next question would be, where does your event end? Oh, well, it ends out on, Route 37, south of Energy or something like that, in a county portion. Okay, you're in the right place. Or no, it actually is going to end, at the, KC Hall in Heron or whatever. Okay, well, in that case, since your key location is going to be in the municipality of Heron, you'll need to contact them. But it's tough because the average applicant probably isn't going to know. I mean, I didn't know until I read this, and I still don't know which municipalities have it and which ones don't. I haven't called them all.
So
It's going to be confusing.
So the biggest,
Steph is going to be the one that has to probably deal with this.
so the biggest hinge would be where it ends.
Yes, the key, what's
key
is
considered
where
the
it
key
is.
location.
It's where the drawing takes
So other
place.
than that,
Where they
then,
give the prizes away.
Yes.
then we find out that's the question to ask.
That's
Where is it going to end?
Mhm.
And if we're unsure, contact City Hall.
Yeah.
And if they have something, then direct someone to their City Hall.
And that's the key question, because it can have 25 different stops that can be in different
Right.
municipalities or unincorporated parts of the county, but wherever it ends, that jurisdiction has authority over it to issue the license.
So let's just say once again, hypothetically, it ends in Heron.
Mhm.
Heron doesn't have a poker license.
In that case, it would fall to the county.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's probably step one, find out where it ends. Step two, call City Hall, see if they have an ordinance. If they do, send them there. If they don't, they need to fill one out.
And maybe maybe the thing to do, and I can do this, is maybe we draft up a sheet, a list of the different municipalities within the county, and just a yes or a no. Do they have an ordinance or do they not?
That'd be good.
And that way, when they come in, you can say, hey, where's your location in? Where are you giving the prizes? And they say, well, it's going to be in wherever, Heron. Oh, they don't have one. All right, you're in the right place. Or Carterville or whatever. Yes, they have one. Okay, you need to contact City Hall. Here's phone number or whatever.
Get a copy of it.
Yeah.
So we have it on file. So.
over the years, it's been very rare to have any issues with this.
Yeah.
I mean, I can count 2 or 3 probably in all these years, so.
But basically, this is just like housekeeping, what I always call it. Just
To help
Pretty
you,
much.
out, that would probably be a good thing to just answer the question.
Well, and the two issues you run into, the first issue is, like the young lady who had the last one, out of Carterville, she's like, well, I called you guys because I didn't know, it says within Williamson County. So,
Yeah.
Did she get that information off the website? That's the question. If it is, do we have to make a correction on the website? She got it somewhere.
Well, and here's the crazy thing. Like I said, your average person probably is not going to, and this is not me saying that attorneys are smarter people, but she was an attorney, and
You're
she
correct,
she
yeah.
didn't know.
Was she giving those chances away? She wasn't selling those. Was
She wasn't selling them.
She was giving them away. So
Yeah.
She didn't need a license at
She
all.
didn't even, need according to the statute, yeah.
So okay, so that didn't really apply then to her.
And that was the issue with that one. It
Yeah.
wasn't the location. It was,
She just said
She
she'd rather
didn't
be
need
safe
it.
than sorry.
I already
so.
take these steps whenever I issue one.
Okay.
Or whenever I have somebody come in and fill out an application.
I guess it doesn't really matter. Does Carterville have anything,
Yeah, you have to be at the Red River City Hall, but I don't know if they're paying anything, or at least
Yeah.
get notice of the
Okay.
resident.
All right. Well, then in that case, I think we did okay with her, really.
Yeah, she's want to take a side of caution, that's all she's
Yeah.
trying to do, protect
Right.
herself.
Sure.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
The other recommendation that I would make, and it's obviously it's a board decision, but I would recommend it, And the statute talks about it in there on the second and third page. You can read it if you get really, really bored. I would maybe look at an intergovernmental agreement between Williamson County and the different municipalities, whether they have one or don't have one. I think there's the opportunity here where we could maybe come up with a uniform stance for all of Williamson County, which I think would make things easier both at the municipal level and here at the county level. Obviously, that's not a front burner issue, but if something that we want to explore in the future, we can.
All right. Drew, appreciate it. As usual. We all done with that then?
I think we talked that one there.
All right. Moving on to highway department. Travis, go ahead.
Okay, great. Morning, guys, and ladies. So today, you'll have in the packets, there's a couple pieces of equipment that we took bids on, advertised in the paper, our normal procedure for acquiring new equipment. The first one that I've got here is we're buying two 10-foot rotary batwing mowers and one 7-foot rotary mower. We accepted bids from 4 different companies: Little Tractor, Snyder Stricter, Noble Partners, Hudson, and F.E. McAfee. The low bid on the rotary mowers was Little Tractor, located right here in Marion, Williams County Company, for $20,835.
It's a big difference, isn't it?
Yeah, so the big difference was in the trade-in value. And
Oh, that's what they did.
yeah, they put a lot more money in the trade-in value. That's, the next closest was, like a third. So, yeah, so Little Tractor was very aggressive on that.
And it's a Williamson County company.
Williamson County Company, that's correct.
Way,
Yes.
way.
The next one, again, we followed a policy, put everything in the newspaper and advertised for a new wheeled excavator, our current cat model.
But we need to go ahead and vote on this one first. Do we need to vote on it? Is it voting on it?
Okay.
Do we need to vote on this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I see somebody make a motion.
Do we need to list the equipment?
Equipment and value and price.
Make a motion that we accept and purchase of 2 10-foot batwing rotary cutter mowers for $42,300. That's $21,150 each. And one 7-foot rotary cutter mower for $5,035 for Little Tractor.
And then that would of course be minus the trade-in
Minus the
value
trading
Right,
values.
right, right.
of $26,500.
Okay. I'll second.
Jim Marlowe,
Yeah,
Ray Gentry,
Yes.
Tim Anderson.
Okay, and then, so back to the wheeled excavator, our current model is Cat, 7 years old, it's soon to be out of warranty. And, very expensive to maintain outside of warranty, so we took, bids, from, again, 4 companies. One of Bobcat of Marion, one from Herb Equipment, one from Fabic Cat, and one from Barrett Equipment at Volvo. The winner of the bid was Bobcat of Marion, and that was for a Doosan for $146,000. That was in addition to the trade-in of $59,500, but the sum at the end is $146,000.
That's across the county.
That's the cost of the county.
Another huge difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so, when I wrote the specs, I wrote them wide enough that all of these companies could bid on them.
That's what bidding's for.
Yeah, so that was a pleasant surprise when they put.
I'll make a motion to accept the bid, $146,000 from Bobcat of Marion.
Jim Marlowe,
Yeah.
Ray Gentry,
Yeah.
Tim Anderson.
And one guys, that one, the one that what we got is actually at the yard. Something I can see it. We used it last week as a trial. It worked really good. The best part about it is those are you're waiting 6 months to a year to get a piece of equipment like that, and that was available.
You got the new one, to use for a trial?
Yeah,
Get it over your house, ready to do your driving, isn't it?
I'm gonna come get
we'll tear
it.
your house down, it'd probably be easier to tear your house
I'll be
down.
down tonight. I'll be by over later.
Okay. All right,
So all you had, Travis?
that's it, guys, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to new business. Tom, I've asked Tom Scott to come here. Tom, I called him the other day and we had a discussion concerning, we had a gentleman that slipped and fell in the lobby a few weeks back, was injured. Tom and I had discussion on policies on work comp insurance for subcontractors. So I asked Tom if he would come and explain what we're looking at and the risk involved of not having a policy in place. I don't know where Drew went. I'd like for him to be here to listen to this.
He's right here. He's talking to Travis.
Oh, okay.
Maybe he's actually gonna go borrow the machinery today, find it all out.
Definitely.
Yes.
We'll keep it back in here, please.
We got a good one for you. Right?
Absolutely.
Okay, Tom?
Okay, yeah, so, yeah, anyway, so, I think, I can't remember how it first came up, I guess Jessica called me, we were talking about, somebody fell in the lobby. And at first, there was some concern that he was, here in the role of his, occupation, doing some work in the county or something. I think that might have turned out not to be the case.
Right.
So it was.
But he was a subcontractor for the church.
Exactly. So these issues started coming out. Now, let me, one of the things that I kind of brushed up on, and I don't have as much knowledge as I'd like to on this today, but I was and prepared for this, I was rereading the Illinois Work Comp Act definitions. And normally, so for example, here's the concern. Let's say I'm a home builder and I hire a plumbing firm to work on the house. The plumbing firm comes in and one of the plumbing firm's employees gets injured. The plumbing firm doesn't carry workers' compensation. Under the Workers' Compensation Act, that injured employee is the employee of the home builder. Okay, it moves up. Okay, it moves up to where the work comp coverage is. Now, that's the kind of situation that caused that to be a concern for me, particularly when you guys have a $300,000 retention per claim on workers' compensation. Now, the Workers' Compensation Act does make an exemption, and it says that contractors, state, counties, municipalities, the employees of contractors are not the employees of those local governments. But ICRMT tells me, and this is where I'm a little deficient in my knowledge, but they say, well, we still have concerns about that because we get drugged into these all the time. Okay, so from their point of view, it's still a concern. Okay, so that's one. Workers' compensation is one concern. The other concern is, and to back up a little further, when ICRMT first came in, we were working on a lot of different issues. We were trying to shotgun a lot of problems. One of them that we started with the guys that originally did the loss control was some type of a vendor qualification, vendor agreement program. I don't know if that ever got put in place or to what extent anybody is doing that, but it's something that should be in place for business entities that do business with the county, especially if they're out working on behalf of the county you know, outside or on county property. Now, if you go back to this situation with that I'm talking about on work comp, you end up with a subcontractor or a vendor that has an injured employee and they don't have workers' compensation, even if they can't file a work comp claim against you. That just means that they'll find a cause of action to file a general liability claim against you, because they have injured themselves. So it's going to generate, it's going to generate, yeah, it's going to generate another action. And then, and that's a concern, it's less of a concern for general liability because you don't have that big fat retention there. But you have too many claims anyway, so you don't want to have these gaps, and you want to do everything you can to kind of fill these. So I think what should be considered is some type of a vendor agreement that the county, enters into with businesses as business with. And I've given you, Dan sent me a sample one here, just the insurance and hold harmless section of one that I think City of Batavia uses. So, that kind of deals with the insurance and hold harmless aspects of the agreement. So there's some things to think about as far as how you want to implement this, how you want to construct it, how widespread you want it to be. I know it affects office holders that enter into their own contracts with people, so you got to kind of bring those people in a little bit, to get them on board, I guess, with what you want to do. But I'm jumping around a little bit, so I hope I'm not confusing you. But another concern is in commercial insurance contracts, when you grant an additional insured coverage to someone. So let's say that the county enters into an agreement. Somebody's coming into work and you say, "Oh, do you have insurance? Yeah, name us additional insurance, send us a certificate of insurance." So they do that. Okay. In the absence of a written agreement requiring the additional insurance and stating how much insurance is provided, that it doesn't activate the additional insurance under their insurance. Okay. So you have to have a written agreement in order to really legitimately obtain that additional insured status under somebody else's policy. And it's freely granted, it's in their policies, and it's extended. But if you lack the written agreement that activates it, then they're not, then that insurance company's not obligated to come forth and defend you for that. So that's another, that's the primary reason for these things for these insurance provisions and hold harmless agreements to exist in these contracts.
So if they didn't have insurance and they signed this agreement and they got hurt, there's no way they could file for work comp.
There's two.
But they can
We're
still
talking about
file
two different things.
liability.
I'm talking about the general liability. What I was just discussing
Right.
was more in the realm of the general liability. So,
Right.
so what that situation would be is, let's say you hire somebody to do mowing on the county road, subcontract that out, and they injure somebody. Someone comes forth with a lawsuit against them and the county. If you have the additional insured properly set up, which means you have an agreement and they have insurance, then they will come forward and defend the county for that claim because it arises out of their negligence. Okay. If you didn't have the agreement, if you didn't have this independent, that other insurance company would be safe.
And the certificate of
Sorry,
insurance.
they have additional insured for you, but it's not activated because you don't have to.
And the certificate of insurance, I always assumed that just meant that the company had insurance. We provided that on every job.
Exactly.
And unless there was an indemnification form that we
Yes.
filled out along with our bid specs, then it never really applied.
Well, if there's, you could have an implied contract. It has to be a written agreement, not necessarily a signed agreement. But if the, and for many years, that was the case. But I would say for the last 10 or 15 years anyway, that's been in the policies. So, and not only is it, the other thing that negates it, you have to state the amount of insurance.
There has to be a dollar amount.
There has to be a dollar amount in the contract.
Right.
If the dollar amount is embedded, nothing applies.
So at least getting the certificate of insurance means that contractor does have insurance. That doesn't cover us necessarily.
Right, exactly. Yeah, the thing that brings it in is the, you want to have the hold harmless agreement, contractual liability, hold harmless agreement, then you want to have additional insurance status, those two
Right.
things. How, we do this, we used to do a lot of contractor insurance, so we help a lot of contractors with that, and they're the type of people who have to deal with this more commonly. But what we suggest, how do you, one thing to do it, how do you monitor it over time and make sure you're taking care of it? And I think the easiest way to do it is when you write somebody a check, so if you have a position that, before they're paid, do we have a signed contract? Do we have a signed agreement with them? Do we have a certificate of insurance? Then you have to kind of stop process.
So can we generate that here and have them sign it, or is that something that their insurance company will have to generate through them?
No, the insurance company doesn't really have to do anything other than issue you a certificate, which they might do anyway.
Right.
And more commonly now than it used to be, a lot of commercial insurance contracts have blanket additional insured contracts, so you don't even have to endorse or name them.
Right.
They're in there on a blanket basis. They're already priced in. You just have to activate them, with that written agreement.
So that activation, would that have to come from the contractor's insurance company, or can he just sign?
No, he can, once he enters into, well, first of all, you don't know whether the contractor has blanket additional insurance or not. You have
That's
no
what
way
I'm saying.
of
How
knowing.
do we?
So what you would want to do is have the vendor or contractor, you want the agreement with them, or, if nothing else, you put out the, by submitting the bid, you accept this, or and I would want to have to sign it, but anyway, so you, at least you have an implied contract with them, but then they require a certificate. So once, and if you're requiring additional insured, then the certificate will say additional insured, pay there. So you want to have the certificate on a continuing basis, because that's how you know that they kept their insurance in force. So when that certificate expires, they need another one to replace it.
So
Now, there's some clients, and we could, I don't know whether, there's a lot to talk over maybe in establishing something like this. But we could do this for the county if you wanted us to, we monitor certificates.
I was just gonna ask, who would be monitoring? this?
Yeah,
There's a
yeah,
lot of
so
things that
if
we monitor.
you wanted to do it internally, you could do that. If you wanted, if you wanted to give us a vendor list, I mean, what we would do is we would, have a form letter maybe made up by the county clerk, and when the certificate 2 months before it expires, we would send it to them, and it would just come back. We as county care of our box number. We get it back. We don't get it back, we'd let you know, hey, you got somebody that's out of compliance here. on insurance.
So how would we handle these contractors when they change insurance companies? Because they could change insurance companies at any time during the year.
Well, yeah, but still, it's up to that's really driven by somebody that has a continuing business relationship with the county.
Right.
I'm sorry, to answer that question, a lot of times those insurance companies don't always automatically.
They don't
issue
automatically
certificates
do that.
anyway. They usually have to ask somebody for it.
I mean, for 15 years, I had the same insurance company, and I had to provide my insurance certificate to the state of Illinois. And every single year, I had to call them.
Right.
6 months after they were supposed to do that, to have them send that out.
Yeah.
And then once again, the anniversary dates of these policies can change.
Yes, right.
And
Yeah,
so
well-
how do we know that we're actually, even though we have this initial coverage, we may not continue to have that?
Yeah, so that's true. So I mean, anyway, we can, and, Dan, Luttrell, and I, if you want to come back and hash this out some more and work on it, we'd be happy to help. We can help you guys set up something internally to monitor that, or somebody in my office.
And you have counties like ours doing this throughout the state. You've implemented these policies and these programs.
You mean for monitoring certificates and stuff, not for county governments, but we do it for contractors primarily. So that's who we do it for.
Okay. I got a question.
Okay.
We've zigzagged all over the place on that. My knowledge on insurance is very limited. All right. Now we talked about workers' comp. We kind of touched on possible lawsuits. So let's just say Amanda's in here. I'm gonna pick on her. She's office over. So the people that come work on your, I don't know, polling booths or whatever, the little voting machines. So do they have insurance if they get hurt? Do you know of?
I would think that they're covered. I've never asked them that question, but that's a
That-
pretty
that-
big company.
That's the answer I want to hear, because here's the problem, in my eyes, and I may be way off to it. Every office holder does their own thing.
Right.
So if you're going to do something like this, it needs to be across the county, and everybody needs to be upfront about who they use, because I could see,
Well, that's why I brought that up.
yeah, lawsuits, I could see, but you're right, you didn't ask them, so you don't know.
Right.
And that's what I wanted, because she doesn't know, and the state attorney doesn't know, and her clerk doesn't know, they just assume, so.
But yeah, what I'm talking about is just, it's another policy, it's another thing, it's another administrative chore for you to do, but it's pretty important when, given the amount of money that you guys have, tied up in litigation claims, insurance costs, it's very worthwhile paying attention to. And also, every time you buy insurance, from ISurety or any other, commercial entity, you're telling them that you do this. That's part of the deal of buying insurance. Do you obtain certificates of insurance? Do you have written agreements with the contractors and vendors? So you're representing to your insurers that you're doing this. And that does, whether you do it or not, doesn't really become a problem until it becomes a problem.
It's not
And
insurance.
then it is a problem.
Never a problem until it is.
I think, so Tom, let me ask you this, okay? I think the first step of this is to inform every department head.
Yeah.
Of the county. Now, he said that, what was his name?
Dan Luttrell.
Dan Luttrell.
Yeah, we could find out, and I could probably get more, ask for more. We could do a wider search for, things that other people are doing, to kind of get some.
But what I was gonna say is maybe we could set up a meeting with all department heads,
Absolutely.
with you and Dan.
Yeah.
And, give it your best one-time shot with everybody, at least let them know. We can send out an email to every department head, let them know,
Yeah,
kind of
and
reinforce.
it's a lot of, it's a lot of work, most times not a problem.
And
That, one,
Big, could be a big deal.
Yeah, anything could be a big deal. You never know, well, we don't need to do it for this category because that's low, that's a low, exposure, but this is guys, supposedly somebody working on oxygen machines, it's 10 minutes, broke a tip. So, which would be well into a 6. You know, I mean, it would be a couple $100,000 at least.
Then maybe like during budgeting, we could ask every department head as we meet with the department head on the questions we ask. Do we have a current list of all your providers, your subcontractors?
One way, you know, I know because I got one, I know, you know, a man that you try to track W-9s for all the characters, okay? So that would be, you know, who she tracks for W-9s would be a good guide to who to track for this. But, you know, and that's something to decide how you want to set it up and who you want to impose, you know. And at the same time, as long as you do this for insurance reasons primarily, or loss control reasons, you know, you might as well think, well, are there other reasons that we want to have a written vendor agreement? You know, are there other things that you want to do to qualify, you know, businesses that the county does business with? Because you can wrap all that up, you know, together.
So from our perspective, then, does the board need to establish a policy requiring this?
Yeah, I think so, but I think it requires some research, you know,
At some
rather
point,
than just shotgun it. I think it requires a little more, you know, investigation for all of us, you know, to see how it should be set up.
All right, so then where do we go from here?
Well, I think your suggestion about, I think I will incorporate, bring Dan in, and we will try to search for more things that other people have in place and use, and then also, we'll try to have that at the time that if you
Okay.
set this meeting up, and then we'll use that as the first step and go from there.
And kind of
Yeah,
inform
yeah.
everybody what we're talking about?
Yeah, and in the
Send out
meantime,
an
if
email
we find
to kind of
other,
preempt that.
if we find other contracts and stuff that other people use, and I can send it to Andrew to kind of look over.
And once the email goes out, it'd be nice if you could kind of help with the email wording,
Okay.
you know, so we know
The
exactly
email
what,
to,
well, it's the office holder. if we're trying to take all that shit.
yeah, I can,
So
yeah,
it makes a little bit more sense.
sure,
So,
yes.
yeah, and the thing that concerns me on this is years and years and years ago, I don't want to say Jack Lake companies, but let's just say people that aren't quite as trained as others, that, you know, well, I got a buddy that can run these wires through here, and I guarantee you they didn't have any kind of coverage whatsoever. And it
I
happened,
almost.
and it happened, we're over there in that building
I'll bet I know who you're talking about.
several times. And it's one of my friends, you know, well, that's,
Yeah,
so that would stop all that stuff.
yeah.
Anyway,
Well, you know, and these things, I mean, can, you know, lay around for a long time, you know, these injuries and
Yeah.
things, I mean, and come
we
back.
sure have our share of problems over there. Sure.
Yeah, and so I think it's good. You know, I mean, really, it's just basic, it's very basic risk management.
I wasn't aware of this.
It's not, we're not talking about.
Business 101.
So this injury,
It's the first thing I learned when I went to business 30 years ago.
Yeah.
this injury, whatever happened, I wasn't aware what happened with it, so they weren't really on duty, they were just here, is that right?
Yeah, he wasn't here to see you.
Okay. Yeah. All right,
Well, thank you, Tom.
Okay, all right.
you're more than welcome to stick around for the meeting if you like.
If you'd like to stay, go ahead.
You can read the minutes coming up if you want.
All right. You guys usually have a bigger audience.
They are.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Tom, appreciate that. Tom, be in touch with me. You draft a letter.
Yes.
We need to.
Yeah, I will.
Get a date in mind that you want to do this,
Okay,
and let me know, and we'll get together, and then I'll get this email out, and we'll set up that.
all right. Sounds
Thanks,
good.
Tom.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, we have a sewer credit for Colton Johnson. This is through the White Ash in the village of Pittsburgh. He built a small swimming pool, needs a credit for 3,000 gallons for $22.05. So I make a motion that we issue the credit to Colton Johnson for $22.05 on the sewer business.
Jim Marlowe,
Okay.
Brett Gentry, Matt Gissman.
I'm just curious, do they always, on a pool, they always I know that ladies come to a pool, always crack you back when they go full up. Is that-
Usually
Just
to
the
one
sewer-
time,
Just the sewer.
just the sewer, not the water, just the sewer,
Yeah.
because the water
So-
doesn't go through the sewer.
He probably paid that much for water
Yeah,
for that.
and
Oh, yeah.
I talked
I'd
to
say-
Kyle, Violet about that, they do keep track of it, so it's a one and done. So if it,
I just think he gets
One and done for the year or one and done?
period, yeah. So if they lose half the pool over the winter and they refill it for next year, that's it.
That's on him.
Okay, next is under new business is the enhanced case management services. Julie, you were talking to us about this, and we were talking, we had a conversation on the phone with, I forgot her name, Dr.
Jill, Jasmine.
Yes, that's right. And this is a program for an individual. Got a letter from Mike, was it Mike?
Vance.
Last name?
Vance, V-A-N-C-E.
Vance, yeah, Michael Vance, our attorney. Michael recommended this program. I think Michael would have a good handle on whether or not this program would work for this individual. So, any thoughts on this? It was going to cost us $6,000,
It's up to that.
up to $6,000.
Yeah, so, let's say, that they decide, like a little ways in that they don't want to do anything. We're not out that, all that money. It's just passive as it goes.
Okay. Any thoughts?
Well, I mean, I don't figure away. The only thoughts I got on is the same I had before. There's no guarantee of anything. She admitted that. She's in that business. Of course, they want to make money doing it. We could be out $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 and the guy quit, be out that money and never go anywhere. On the other side, it could work out fantastic if we know for the future. So I really don't care. I mean, it doesn't matter. I'll go whichever way they want to go. That's just no guarantee concern.
What I understood, the amount that they had set aside for the claim, this would come out of that now.
Yes.
So we're gonna have to pay this one way or the other. It sounds like to me.
This comes out of what fund?
What they had set aside for.
What they set aside is in there, so if we don't use it, then we're not
For the
using
claim?
it. Yeah.
Right, so they're gonna pay this much one way or another. That was the way I understood it.
I would be very surprised if Boyd Wayne County goes through this and makes it. We'll see. I don't, whatever. It's fine. I mean,
Well,
it's just-
I wanted this on the agenda to be a board vote.
If you guys don't care, I'd kinda like to see how it happens, how it plays out.
Do a one-time shot, see what
Let's just see, because it may turn out really good for. the
I have
employee.
concern on one side, on the other side, I can see where we get, so I don't really think. So.
I mean, if it ends up being good for the employee, I think this is
Could
great.
be good for the county.
Well, right, but yeah,
But we'll save money, in the long run, if it works.
right. I think we know what the outcome is if we don't spend it. We may have a different outcome if we do. But we're still gonna spend that same amount of money one way or the other.
But I do think there's selected employees that would have success.
I agree.
And there's not very many.
I think we
Yeah.
need to do this on an individual
On an
basis. Of
individual
course, now, we were in
basis, yeah.
executive session, we discussed who the individual was and
Right.
everything, so. So as far as this one here, I guess just need a motion.
I'd make a motion to, what, are we installing this person in this program? Is that what we're doing, or?
Utilizing the.
Yeah, utilizing it
Utilizing
basically.
the enhanced case management
Yeah.
services.
And I'll email her and tell her we're okay with it.
I'll second
Jim Marlowe.
Yeah.
Rick Gentry.
Yeah.
Jim Matheson.
it. Okay, all right.
I think that has potential to maybe be pretty good.
All right. Jim, would you like to read the minutes of the meeting for approval?
Always pick on me.
What are you sitting under doing other than nothing?
We're gonna vote on each one separately. Okay, vote to, motion to accept June 25th, 2021 minutes.
Second.
Jim Marlowe.
Yeah.
Rick Gentry.
Yeah.
Jim Matheson.
Motion to accept June 28th, 2021.
Second.
Jim Marlowe.
Yeah.
Rick Gentry.
Yeah.
Jim Matheson.
Motion to accept July 7th, 2021.
Second.
Jim Marlowe.
Yeah.
Rick Gentry.
Yeah.
Jim Matheson.
Motion to accept July 13th, 2021.
Second.
Jim Marlowe.
Yeah.
Rick Gentry.
Yeah.
Jim Matheson.
Motion to accept July 19th, 2021.
Second.
Jim Marlowe.
Good.
Brent Gentry.
Good.
Tim Eccleston.
Okay. Motion to accept July 21st, 2021 minutes.
Second.
Jim Marlowe.
Yeah.
Brent Gentry.
Yeah.
Tim Eccleston.
I'll read and accept the following reports. The building permit report, the Williamson County Clerk vital records for June, the Williamson County Clerk fees account for June, the Williamson County Clerk real estate trust for June, the Williamson County Clerk mobile home trust for June. You know, just on
For 15 minutes. To turn off.
one thought from what Tom was talking to is, I guess we also need to invite the Public Building Commission to make sure that they're.
We don't know who they use.
Right, because they're totally separate, but it might be beneficial just to invite them, just to listen.
We don't know
See,
who they use.
When I contracted with the building commission years ago, it was part of the bidding specifications. So I would assume any work that they're doing, they're gonna have this certificate of insurance and indemnification and hold harmless is gonna be on the specification. But yes, let's get everybody, this is countywide.
That way they can say they didn't know, you know, but also they can always say, oh, well, I forgot. You know, it's fine, so, you know, it can happen.
All we can do is,
You can't babysit it.
all we can do is the best we can do. And this will be a difficult thing to do, at least
I mean,
initially.
it's probably different, it's probably amended. Who's the big problem?
Yeah, nothing else to do, right?
Okay,
I've got a miscellaneous here, I guess, I was gonna say, under old stuff, I'm trying to clean up on stuff I got written down. Okay, it's about that time of year for the budget, isn't it? So Stephanie, is this about the time of year we send out
Usually in August, we send the budget memos out.
okay, we're approaching the middle, so you take care of that.
I was just waiting for the green light.
Everybody got a green light?
Green light.
Okay.
Green light, it's not yellow, it's green.
Okay.
You're colorblind. The other thing I had on note is we're fastly approaching the end of the month of the year. Seems like it go by quick, but Jeff's leaving. We know Jeff will be leaving. And we're gonna have a void in that position. And we do not want to be the same situation with Celeste under that department, and important it is. I would recommend that we try to do something with Alex. Been in it on 3 years. Very likable. Jesus, Lord knows he's very, very smart. But we don't want to wait till the last minute and then can't come to terms and be sitting here. I think I might heard you call it when they say we don't have the same position as West. We don't want to be sitting in with it, nothing.
Right, exactly.
So we need to, guys looking up September. And I know he's coming around to talk to his individuals, what he has to do, but we need to probably move on this.
So what are you suggesting?
Well, we have a closed session meeting, talk to him,
I would be for that.
or he could do individual.
I would be for a closed session.
That's a personnel matter.
It's a personnel matter. I would be for that.
I mean, it doesn't matter if we come up with another meeting and have it or whatever, but I think he talk to him and see if we can get something.
Let's have
Does he want to do a
frank conversation?
Yeah, open
Yeah,
dialogue.
let's have open dialogue with
So-
him, yes.
And I just know that time flies, and we're getting there.
But you're right, and we're gonna get busy here
Concern, all right.
when budget starts.
all right. So, are you done? I was gonna say, because on that, remember I said we need to set up a meeting to discuss the ARPA.
Well, that was the next thing. That's the key off that. You're talking about having a meeting with ARPA, but
Right.
here's, with ARPA, everybody wants something. Okay, I said something yesterday, I got like 7 or 8, 9 people that's approaching, okay? I know you sent out letters, I saw Aaron said they got something, and
Right.
so he sent letters out, we're all going in different directions, like.
Well, which is what we should be doing.
But I think maybe, I don't know, maybe you're the guy talking. To me, and I may be way off, but this money is basically anybody's money in this county, any business, anything, it's ARPA money. So how do you get the message out? What I'm getting at is if I send a letter to you and to you, but then I forget 20 over here. How do you get the message out? You post something in the paper that says, if you feel your business or whatever qualifies under these specifications, submit an email to Stephanie, whatever we put it, of your request. Doesn't mean you're gonna get it, but it means, the way I understand it is, again, maybe wrong, but 250,000 people or less, and you receive $5 million or more, the deadline is August 31st, which is 2 weeks, of a direct plan of attack. And here we said, and we don't know which direction we're going. So how do you get
Well, that's
that
why-
message out?
Well, that's why I was gonna set that meeting up. to
No, I
discuss
understand
this.
that, but I mean, how do you get the message out to where you're saying, hey, we had it out there. If you didn't hit it, then I'm sorry, you know?
I mean, my recommendation would probably be like a neon LED sign, a big one that we could put out there, so no one.
Tell them I come by, drive by, and
We're
look
not
at
helping.
it.
But,
It's the opposite of helping.
yeah, no, but it is a predicament, right? You have money that can be spent, but you hit the nail on the head, which is if you essentially solicit or invite somebody to apply for this money and you invite these 3 people over here, but not these, are you gonna run into issues later? Well, they may not be legal issues, but you may have some personal political issues based on who you send letters to and who you don't. That's something that I can't advise you about, but, look, unfortunately, that's the decision that comes with the chair that you sit in.
No, yeah, because the ball stops with the commissioners. That's plain clear. So we gotta decide in a meeting or whatever, how do we get the message out to people? I mean, I can tell you how those 8 people right now, there's a couple of them not gonna qualify, but I said, hey, I'll be glad to submit it when time comes.
Sure.
But time's coming.
Sure.
Time's
Well,
coming.
from my perspective on the reporting is, first report's due August 31st. I don't think you have to have a plan. I think you have to report on what you're doing. So in other words, in our report, the way I envisioned it, and I'll talk with Ashley about this, and correct me if I'm wrong.
And I've sent through 2 of these so far.
There's another one tomorrow.
There's one today.
It's kind of like, okay, we've met, we've discussed this, we're in the information gathering phase of this, like what you're saying. If we can send something out, gather all this, doesn't mean you're going to get it, but at least we're extending the invitation. And that is our plan, is to extend, because we've got this, we're going to be receiving this money, and we need to formulate how we're going to use it. Now, we have until 2024 to have a plan implemented, or plans implemented. We have until 2026.
With obligations for the money to be spent.
Exactly. The money needs to be spent by 2026.
We have to obligate that money by 2024, and the final outlay has to be by December 31st, 2026.
And you reaching out to individuals, Tim's.
I'm not reaching out to anybody, they're coming to me.
If you
Okay,
do,
well,
get
I reached out to broadband, because remember I said I was gonna take care of broadband.
Yeah, I have reached out to Soul, because I don't
Four
want to
responses.
give directions.
And, Tim, I think you've got
We're
responses.
sending out.
I sent them out this morning
Sent out several emails today,
to the
and we're
water and
creating,
sewer.
we're creating a log, we're creating a log for community outreach. And I think one of the things that we have to talk about in this meeting is that the money is supposed to be for economic development. It's supposed to spur the local economy, and it's supposed to reach the largest number. It's supposed to reach the largest number of people possible.
Right.
So one of the things that they've been talking about is water and sewer upgrades, and that actually touches many people in the county.
Well, that's what I'm gonna get. One of the,
And we don't have to spend all the money on that.
well, one of the people reached out is a water district. Okay, and they've got a deadline, I think, by the end of the year to do this $606,000 project. So can they not, if quote, they qualify, can they not get the money?
Okay, so
Qualify?
for them to receive the money, they, correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but they're gonna fall under the single audit. So there's going to be an audit of the money as it goes out.
And everyone that receives money has to issue reports on what they're doing with the
They'll have
money.
to do their own.
Every single individual.
I don't know if we'll have to
They pick
audit.
their audit thing.
Even if you give money to an individual, they have to file reports.
Right, and part of the money that's given to them, from what I understand, they can use for professional services to do the audits, to do, the design.
This is they're sitting on they're ready to go.
Well, see, Fergus, okay, so in my opinion, Fergus is perfect use of this money because they want to build a ground storage tank. All right, which is.
And they're ready to take off, so they're ready.
They have the drawings, they have the design and everything.
Yeah.
And they want to increase the storage capacity of their water system by doing this. And if you remember a few years ago when Red Lake lost the 36-inch water line, some of our towns in this county ran out of potable water. So, no, that, to me, that is a perfect use of this money. That will.
And that's what I'm saying, if they got a deadline, I mean, how do you?
Well, why couldn't they just go ahead with the project and spend the money, their own money, and then they could be reimbursed by us?
Well, hold on, I don't know that we can reimburse.
They don't have the money, they're trying to get a grant.
I don't know that, we have to be careful, I don't know that we can reimburse using ARPA funds. I've not heard that.
That we cannot reimburse.
I don't think that we can reimburse.
This is why I was going to invite that, what's her name?
Emily?
Come here, Emily, to speak to us either by the phone or Zoom or whatever.
There's so many
We've got
regulations, qualifications of this money, and if we misuse this, they'll force us to pay this back.
Right, and we don't want that. So the guy at the convention in Galena was the president of NACO, and he was telling every county there that this is a one-time shot in the arm. This is like manna from heaven, okay? Take your time. Make sure what you're going to use this money for is going to be the absolute best possible use of this money.
It's going to reach the largest number of citizens.
Largest number of citizens, because you'll never get this again.
And that goes back to and how do you get that message out? You know, we got to cover ourselves like, hey, it was in the paper. I don't tell you. I mean.
May I have a suggestion?
Yes, always.
You know, I don't, there's not as many people reading the newspaper anymore. I mean, there are, but, you know, if you were gonna do like a forum, you could do like a Facebook Live or reach out through social media or reach out through your local news to get this information out. I don't know exactly how much money this is, or is it just concerning Williamson County, or is it the state of Illinois?
It's Williamson County.
You know,
Every county.
because a lot of people are, you know, whether it's email, you know, people are more, have access to, you know, social media and the media. So to, you know, broadcast it in a bigger view where there's more people, I mean, that would be a suggestion for you.
There's various ways that we could do this.
Yeah.
We could even put it on our website, you know.
Oh,
check
yeah.
it
There's-
out.
there's
The
many
news
ways-
media, be
We
about
can
the
have a
best.
news release.
I just don't want on many things.
Yeah, and then
It says
maybe,
that we
you
have
know,
to-
refer it to your website, you know, because a lot, you know, not everyone just gets on your website unless there's something for a reason why they're going there. So it's like, I would take it and, you know, get the information out, and then where do they refer to? And then whatever the prerequisites are, you know, whether they have to have a business plan and everything that has to, everything that's entailed in whatever this money is, and that they have to report, everything that they would have to do to be eligible for it. I don't even know who would be interviewing for this, who's
Well, see, that's an interesting thing that you bring up, because the way I understand it, the regulations are still changing. And I don't think that the portal open yet on that. Remember, it was a portal that was going to have the regulations, the final regulations.
Because it sounds
This
very
is very
intricate.
fluid, and
It is.
it's very intricate. Yes.
And they really have to have a plan. I mean, this is gonna take time to even do the plan, and then to, you know, and then they're gonna have to have a follow-up plan, you know, on how they're gonna report on this and who is,
Exactly.
you know,
Which-
interviewing. So, you know.
Which is
I mean,
why I wanted to set this meeting up to discuss the parameters of how we're going to
We got
set
to have
this
something on
up.
the 31st, and there's no difference.
And so
We
this
have to
way,
have our initial report.
this can all be
Right.
in the report
What I've heard, and I've said
for
through two
the
of these.
31st. This is
My
what
best
we're doing.
understanding is that we'll give them an initial report, we've received the money, we're starting this type of outreach, and then on October 31st, we'll have our first quarterly report done. That's the way I understand it.
Well, you're right, I haven't read a newspaper in 5, 6 years. Only reason, and there's a lot of ways we can get out to the media, but the reason I bring up newspaper is if we bid something, we have to run it in the newspaper. So
Right.
that's my question was,
Legal
is this the
reasons.
same?
It's old
Is
school,
this the
but
same?
it's
Yeah,
protocol.
it's the same way. with
That's like when he
dealing with
would-
Lawyers and stuff like that, they always put things.
Everybody that bids something, they attach their paper clipping, they put it in the paper because there's something you have to do. I didn't know if there's something we have to do in newspaper, so that's just something to think about, you know.
Okay. With that in mind, then, can we set a date for next week?
Yes.
To discuss.
I didn't
all
know
this?
Friday, I
Yeah.
got that, you know what's going on here, the hearing for 3 days, so.
And that was the only reason why I didn't really want to go into depth with that right now. I got to take off early because I'm heading to Chicago, so. But is there a date next week that would work for everybody?
Monday
Apparently I left my phone in my calendar in my office.
or Tuesday,
So
whatever.
I'll-
Sooner the better.
Sooner, let's get it done.
All right, so,
Are you tied up? Brandon, you tied up all
I'm
day
sorry.
for the next 2 days?
She's gonna do a Monday and you want
She doesn't
me,
know it's good.
I need the morning.
What is it,
That's 4 in the
depositions?
afternoon. Tuesday, anytime's fine.
let's do
You want me
Tuesday.
to sit Thursday?
Let's
Good.
tentatively, let's
You
set
can go
up
on
for
for
Tuesday, the
4,
17th. That okay with you? Tuesday, the 17th? Oh, you.
Tentatively, yeah, I need to check, but yeah, more than likely I can.
9 or 10 o'clock?
Tuesday. Next Tuesday, say?
Yeah, next Tuesday. He can make it any day, anytime on Tuesday.
All right. Tell me what we done? 9, 10?
Anytime's fine, whatever's best for you guys.
Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, we're gonna set up a meeting to specifically talk about art.
Basically how to go about all of this.
And that is the
Right,
2
and we'll have the audit.
The 31st will be 2 weeks from Tuesday.
So,
Our audit.
17, 10 a.m.
On the phone.
Works for
Oh,
me.
okay.
Right, and we'll try to get a little bit more.
Is it like a meeting like this?
Yeah,
or is
it's-
it like
it's
a
an
work
open meeting.
every meeting's open.
It's an open meeting. Why do you-
Same time, 10?
That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I wrote down 10 next.
10 o'clock, okay with you guys?
Yeah.
All right.
We
And
don't
10?
have very many people that participate up here.
It's sad, I know.
Sometimes there's
Do you think it
people.
could be the time that you have set up? When
Well,
people are.
I can
not
tell you years
working?
ago, they tried nighttime, it's a total disaster.
Disaster?
But yeah, so people
Like
gotta be
worse
paid,
than this?
people gotta be paid overtime to come in at night, and
Oh,
Security
really?
for the-
security, it's terrible, so.
Oh, wow.
But you know what, they can go online and we can watch every meeting, never have to step foot in the door. You can go back and, but tomorrow, this meeting can be
Yeah,
online.
that's how I found out about it. I didn't even know you did that until I saw it. I thought, oh my goodness, this is.
Okay,
Okay.
so then tentatively Tuesday. the
I've been trying to
17th
get
at 10
more
o'clock.
involved in the community.
Okay.
What's your name, man?
My name is Janice. I wasn't here last month. I was planning to come, but I got in a car accident that day. So, so that's why I'm here today. So I've kind of recovered from my injury. So I came in June. That was the first.
I've seen you before.
Okay.
I've seen you
Yeah,
before.
that was the
Well,
first one.
Let's go ahead
And
and
then I
finish,
do the
finish out
election
this meeting.
judges with Amanda.
Okay, the last thing on the agenda then is the, travel reimbursement. It was for me, it's the miles that I drove to Galena for the annual conference and back 7.5 hours and you're still in Illinois. But, it's 938.6 miles. Total amount requested is $525.62. That's based on the government reimbursement, was it
54 and a half cents a
4.5
mile or
cents or
something?
something like that per mile?
You need a
So I
motion?
need a motion.
So is it, okay, so
I'll make a motion to accept.
This is just miles of all this.
Is it for you only, or is it?
Yeah, just me, no, just me. I took my truck.
I make a motion to accept the travel reimbursement for $525.62.
I think I'm gonna set this down, go ahead, Jim.
I can't, reimburse myself. I'll need a second from you.
So were you by yourself, or were you two in your car?
It's for me, for my truck.
Right, I understand that.
Yeah, Tim and I went up to Galena. It's for my truck. I drove. If you don't want to reimburse me.
Well, no, that's not the problem, it's this, the problem. And I'm not gonna go against page 4. I can't, I never have, and I don't have to read it, I'm not making a big deal of it, I can't. So,
Okay, well,
very clear, so you can vote
I'll
on it,
second it.
yeah, that's fine, I have no problem with it.
Jim Marlowe,
Yeah.
Brent Gentry,
Present.
Tim Anderson.
You still, you don't work over here anymore?
Where?
You don't work-
No, I gave my notice like in October of last year. They closed my position. So, they were moving me to another position.
Second.
Jim Marlowe,
Yeah.
Brent Gentry, Tim Anderson.
I've not had a sandwich since you were not in there.
Yeah, I know.
So, because it's not